Okay, today let's talk about the Embracer Group purchase of basically everybody. I want to talk about the good news that has come out of this and what it could mean for future games that we might see released, and some not so great news for a certain Star Wars IP that many of us, myself included, have been excited to see. Let's dive right in. So I'm not going to plug the subscribe thing at this front anymore. I'll just let the animated thing play, but please consider it. This will be the last time I say it. Or maybe we just make it a thing. Hey, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. Let's have a little fun with it. All right, so the bad news. Let's start with the bad news. So basically, it sounds like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. It's going to be delayed because the remake has switched developers. Now, of course, Embracer Group is telling us it's not going to be delayed. Don't worry, we're just switching to a whole new developer. I'm sure that will have no impact whatsoever on development of the game, but that's what they say. So we got to take them at their word, right? No one's ever lied about something like that before. Or I don't even think they're lying. I think their hope would be that it wouldn't be delayed, but it's just not realistic. Anyway. So Embracer confirms studio switch for AAA project following claim of KOTOR trouble. It was recently claimed Saber Interactive could have taken over the game from Aspyr. And I believe the rumor was, and I'm paraphrasing just off of memory here, that somebody saw a build of the game. They weren't happy with it. Aspyr went through some pretty big revamps, and now Saber Interactive is stepping in to take over the development of the game. Let's continue on in the story. So basically, Embrace Group may have confirmed that the upcoming Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake has switched developers. Bloomberg claimed last month that developer Aspyr Media had stopped working on the game and that the future of the title was up in the air. Embracer had confirmed in May that Aspyr parent company Saber Interactive was also working on the game, and some of Bloomberg's sources said they believed it was possible Saber had taken lead over the development of the project entirely. So there you have it. That's the backstory. And now I think we can all but confirm that, yes, Star Wars is being taken over by Saber. And I have this in the bad category. It's bad because it's likely going to be delayed, even though we're going to read here in a second that Embracer says it's not. But maybe it'll be good at the end of the day. If Aspyr was really having that much trouble with this remake, I'd rather, honestly, that somebody else took over. If it wasn't going the way that it planned, or like the studio just couldn't figure out how to manage resources and such, then maybe it's a good thing at the end of the day. So anyway, Embracer confirmed, they didn't say the title by name, but Embracer confirmed that one of its big releases had changed developers. One of the group's AAA projects has transitioned to another studio within the groups, the company said. This was done to ensure the quality bar is where we need it to be for the title. We are not expecting any material delays for the title based on this transition. I call BS. Sorry, Embracer. There's just no way that a game going through this sort of trouble is just going to hop on over to a whole new developer, and there's not going to be any delay whatsoever. The game was announced for PS5 and PC. The Aspyr Group, they're based in Texas, and the original launch date was 2022. And then, so here, Bloomberg's report that Aspyr fired the game's former design director, Brad Prince, and art director Jason Miner in July. The pair were reportedly dismissed shortly after the studio finalized a demo of the game to show its production partners, Lucasfilm and Sony. How bad does a demo have to be? Like, I don't know. Like, my reaction to that, just off the cuff, is, was the demo really that bad? And what did these people in particular do that was so poor that Lucasfilm and Sony said, like, you got to go. Like, we're letting you go. You know, this has the hit for 2022. You're gone. Or is it like really that hard to work for Embracer Group? Like, is Embracer Group really like just not having it if that ends up happening? Anyway, that's sort of like my initial reaction to it. But there's some other news about Embracer Group, and this is hopefully a little bit more positive. Embracer Group has acquired Limited Run Games, and looking up who Limited Run Games are, basically they handle what seems like a lot of ports. And for me, that could potentially mean good news for something like the Legacy of Kain franchise, which could potentially make a return. I just feel like that should get the Dead Space treatment. Everybody talks about that game all the time. It's in a positive light. I don't know if the IP or like I don't know what's up with it. Like, why has nobody ever done anything with that franchise? They just let it go. Maybe there's like market data that just says, hey, this isn't worth it, really. And you can actually read the press release here. This is posted by Wario, I believe. As an avid collector, I've admired Limited Run's collector's editions. They built a strong brand that resonates with players. We see opportunities for Limited Run to further grow their business with the Carbon engine by bringing back classic games and extend their footprint geographically through synergies with other companies within Embracer Group, says Lars Wingefors, CEO of Embracer Group. I think that they're all but saying that, hey, Legacy of Kain is going to be making a comeback. And I'm sure other IPs that they own. So continuing through here, just looking at some of the other stuff that they own, we should also, well, one second here. Let's go through what they own, and then I'm going to talk about what that could mean for some of those smaller IPs. Because they also kind of bought Lord of the Rings. That includes The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings films and games and anything, basically. They now have all the merchandising rights for the IP. I believe there's something in the works. I don't know Lord of the Rings that well, but I think there's something in the works over at Amazon currently. But maybe this means that the Middle-earth games, what was it, Shadow of Mordor, with the whole Nemesis system that everybody adored, could potentially see a resurgence, basically. I would like that. I'm truly excited to have The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, one of the world's most epic fantasy franchises, join the Embracer family, said Lars Wingefors, the company's founder and CEO, in a release. Going forward, we also look forward to collaborating with both existing and new external licensees for our increasingly strong IP portfolio. So that included Limited Run Games. They bought the Lord of the Rings franchise. And if you actually take a look at where Embracer Group sits on the table, look at how many properties they own. Now, this is done with a caveat. Somebody jokingly made this chart, but it's really well done, and a lot of people point to it. So Embracer Group owns all of these companies. Just it's kind of astounding just how many things they own. Here's Saber. We were just talking about Saber Interactive, Koch Media, Amplifier. Let me just look through here really quick and see if anything jumps out off the top of my head. 3D Realms, the makers of Duke Nukem, which honestly, I think Duke Nukem was a product of its time. I don't necessarily think that those games really need to come back in any capacity, but maybe they're allowing them to work on something new. Deep Silver, that could be why we're finally seeing all of those leaks about, what was it? Was it Dead Island 2? Yeah, I believe that was the game. Volition, just they're like this massive powerhouse, and they've just been eating up all of these different companies. They own Gearbox, or at least a stake in Gearbox. I don't see Crystal Dynamics on here, though, and I'm pretty sure that they own Crystal Dynamics, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that Tencent? Everybody's buying everybody right now. And when you actually look at this chart, you can see all the different Ubisoft studios that work together with Ubisoft. You can see what Sony owns. And to Sony's credit, like what they're able to do with this little piece of pie, they really have their stuff together when it comes to the production pipeline. They seem to set up their production so that things are coming out, at least next year, somewhat regularly, and they're of a high caliber quality. Tencent over here owning people like Turtle Rock, et cetera, et cetera. And then Microsoft slowly building their piece of the pie. A lot of people pay attention to Activision because they're a huge publisher. But when you look at like actual studio lists, Ubisoft, major company, owns a bunch of studios. And you have to remember, so Microsoft and Sony are sort of neck and neck. Nintendo's not even on this list, but Nintendo's kind of doing their own thing. They're in third place. The companies that are like dominating right now are Tencent, and I I believe Embracer is up there. So everybody is super focused on the Activision thing because of the Call of Duty launch. It is a big deal, don't get me wrong, but I think what we're going to see now and over the next few years is continued industry consolidation, almost like it's a big reset point for the whole industry. And then we're going to see new indie developers come up, and we're going to sort of reset as an industry. This doesn't really make me nervous. We have all these legacy IPs that are just sort of sitting on the table, not doing anything. Like, for example, Legacy of Kain. Nobody's doing anything with that IP. If Embracer Group is going to acquire these companies, then maybe something good will come of it at the end of the day. Dynamics acquired. Who acquired them? They were acquired by... No. Yeah. So Embracer is currently in the process of acquiring Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal, so the US-based publishers. Now, Verge has an article together sort of talking about some of the IPs that they own and what it could potentially mean for the future. And they end up coming to the same conclusion I do about legacy IPs. So what are the video game franchises I've heard of that Embracer owns? They own stuff like Little Nightmares, Goat Simulator, Destroy All Humans, Time Splitters, Time Cop, Darksiders, Saints Row, Duke Nukem, Borderlands, Valheim, Killing Floor, Deus Ex, and Tomb Raider. They also own movies, and so the Dark Horse is one of their purchases, and that means stuff like Hellboy, Sin City 300, and the Umbrella Academy are underneath their wing. They started, the big news was back in May, and they started with the Tomb Raider and Deus Ex franchise. And the company said the deal brings a compelling pipeline of new installments from beloved franchise and original IPs, including a new Tomb Raider game. That's why I have a hope that the Legacy of Kain games will finally get a well-deserved, at least, what would be the right word? Remaster. I would prefer a remake, honestly. I think the franchise is that good that it could deserve a remake. Maybe make one game that ends up telling that whole story that's very long. But it's all, and they could probably get rid of some of the fluff and poke and prod a few of the puzzles to make them a little bit more intuitive. But overall, I would really like to see that game come back in any form so that more people could experience it. And the reason I bring it up is because unless you have a Dreamcast and the Dreamcast disc of Soul Reaver, and then all the various platforms they came out on, it's really hard to play that series. Like the GOG versions of Soul Reaver doesn't really have good controller support. The controllers are like really wonky if you use a controller, like the sensitivity is too high and everything. So I would really like to see a professional studio take a crack at it. And they kind of come to a conclusion here at the end of the Verge article. So what's Embracer's big plan? It seems like the company's long-term strategy is to acquire notable intellectual properties within the gaming industry and other IPs with which they can make games and other media. This has been Disney's strategy for over a decade. Today's purchase of limited run games also means that anything in Embracer's expansive back catalog could see a physical release. The rate at which Embracer Group is gobbling up companies, further consolidating an increasingly consolidated market is cause for some concern. But to put the company in perspective to its peers in the industry, it would take about 8 of them to equal one Activision Blizzard. So while the company seems massive, comparatively speaking, it doesn't even crack the top 10 list of biggest video game companies, at least not yet. See, great. They're not a big player yet, but they're acquiring beloved IPs. And if they are smart, they're going to be able to leverage that. And I think we hear about Embracer a lot in the next few years. I think they're really going to do a lot of work with what they have acquired thus far. So anyway, that's sort of a breakdown of what's going on with Embracer and why some people might see it as bad. I honestly don't think it's going to be that bad that they've acquired all these companies. I actually think we might see some good out of it at the end of the day. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Well, I have you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you like this content. Somebody requested that I record this in 4K. So congratulations. I'm going to upload it in 4K. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully it processes just as quick. I recorded at 30,000 CBR, but the base resolution is still 1080. So let me know if it looks any better on your TV or whatever. But basically, it's like Returnal, right? My base resolution is 1080, but you're getting it on your television with a 4K option. But really, it's just upscaled to 4K, which is how video production works. But somebody asked for it, so there you go. Big shout out to the members for supporting the channel. I appreciate all of you, and it's good to see you continuing to support. Thank you. If you would like to become a member and support the channel, click that join button right down there. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.